as an entrepreneur. I'm not there yet as far as DeFi and crypto is concerned. Of course, I have suppliers, I have contractors, everybody wants to get paid, and that's done through the traditional banking system these days. And of course, especially if you want to do it according to the law. But what I'd like to understand, and of course, we've got a limited amount of time and some very intelligent people in the room. So I think that we can actually try and tackle one thing today. And if we can get that one thing today, I'll consider this a success, which is, of course, we're not there yet. But rather than that, let's get to the next level of the conversation and say, okay, why aren't we there yet? I'd like to, if we can, identify the risks that are involved in DeFi. The insurance is one of them for sure, but as far as maybe there are more risks, let's see. And what are some of the ways that we can solve those? So Camilla, let's start with you. What are the risks that are involved in DeFi?
Well, yeah, right now DeFi is certainly a very risky place, and there are risks from many directions. The first one, and this is common to all of crypto, is just the volatility inherent in digital assets. So any investor going into DeFi, as the same as any investor going into crypto in general, will be subject to huge volatility from even the most liquid assets, Bitcoin and Ether. Those are the two kind of giants in crypto, but they're still a lot more volatile than most stock indices, most fiat currencies. So that's one there. Huge volatility. Yeah. And then another big one, and I think this relates more specifically to DeFi, is smart contract risk. And we've seen this over and over again. And this is risk basically of having a bug in the code of these smart contracts, which are used to execute very, in some cases, complex financial transactions. And all this technology is incredible, but it's also very new and untested. And so that means this code, which is sometimes coming out without any audits and without any test, is sometimes bound to not work as it's supposed to, or work as it's supposed to, but somebody may find an attack
loophole
vector.
Sure, we've seen it already. There's several smart contracts, even audited ones. I mean, exactly. I was an investor in the original DAO, and we all know what happened there.
Yep.
Anton, maybe you could tell us what are so we know smart contract coding risks and volatility are big ones. We spoke also maybe a bit about insurance. What are some of the risks that users might not be aware of?
I also want to add about smart contract risk, because it is not only about new smart contracts which are developed for new protocol. It is also about composition of different protocols. Since DeFi is also called like money leaguers, if some protocols they use other protocols, and if this usage is not like intended how it should be made in a bad manner. It could not predict how it could end everything, So since its composition, it also increases all the risks. Yeah, but yeah, as you asked, the core feature of smart contracts is to remove trust between parties. So instead of parties to trust each other when they interact with each other, they could rely on smart contract, and both parties could trust smart contract. And since this smart contract is audited, or it's much better if it's also time proven. For example, it could exist for many months, for 1 year, and no one hacked it. It's also some kind of protection, some kind of proof that this contract is fine. Yeah, so it's about
time, you're saying.
Yeah, it's like dependency inversion. If instead of trusting to each other, two parties starts to trust something immutable. when smart contracts are immutable. Some smart contracts are not immutable nowadays,
Sure.
but I'm more talking about immutable smart contracts like the concept. So if some parties trust to immutable smart contracts and it is like time proven, so it's much safer for them.
Sure, sure. And what do you think, Patrick? I mean, are there any other risks that we haven't yet identified? And we've got smart contracts so far, volatility, and insurance. What other risks do we have within the DeFi space?
I always like to challenge myself to think from the perspective of somebody who has no exposure to this space. And you know, one thing I did recently is I walked my mom through donating to a Gitcoin grant. So Gitcoin does these funding rounds, and you know, it's supposed to fund open source, and you know, everyone receives a slice of the pie through this matching algorithm. But it took me about 2 hours. It took me 2 hours to walk her through this, and she actually felt like she was doing something illegal when she had control over her own funding. She felt like something. She was not. She was not. No. God bless her soul. This is my mother we're talking about. So no, but this
my mom does illegal things. I'm not here to judge.
Oof. So this is a new psychology. This is something that's going to require mass adoption to occur. People need to change their understanding, or the locus of their understanding, and this also ties into the uncertainty connected to regulatory risk. If we want to get down to it, you know, I'm in Germany. I'm shopping for insurance now, or my company is incorporated in Germany. And, you know, we are buying insurance to hire our defense when the regulators eventually come after us here. And I say come after us in a light way. We're not doing anything wrong, but this is just such you know, a new area of finance that every country, every jurisdiction is responding in its own way. Some of them are responding with very ambiguous you know, signals, especially the United States, which traditionally took a leading role when it came to financial regulation. And you know, people don't necessarily feel safe in this very wide open Wild West sandbox, if you will.
Right, right. All right. Well, I think you mentioned two things there, actually, two risks that are inherent. So number one is user friendliness. I think that we need to get to a place where grandma can feel safe using it, and that she'll not feel like she's doing something wrong every step of the way and not have to have an expert over her shoulder. And you mentioned also regulatory risk, which I believe is one of the big ones. I mean, that's one that I've spent a lot of time on personally. I mean, when I'm building out financial services for quantum economics, I mean, you know, I have a trader's license. I'm a licensed portfolio manager in the European Union. So I want to make sure that everything is by the book, and certainly the DeFi space screams regulators don't have any idea how to attack it yet, and certainly there's a lot of risk there from making the wrong moves. Andre, how about you? Any other risks that we haven't mentioned yet, or anything that you want to bring?
Yes, sure. Hi. Sure, but before I want to say compliments to Patrick's mother. It took her only 2 hours. So I think it's not so bad. So the result is not so bad.
But she had Patrick there with her the whole way.
Gas prices were 300 that day as well, so it was quite a day.
Wow.
That's good. So, but okay, talking about risks, if we speak traditionally, there are classification of risks, and it's operational, credit, and market. Mostly that's how people split risks in the financial market. And I think the blockchain, we're trying to get rid of operational risk, definitely, because everything works automatically and everything is immutable, trustless. Credit and market, credit, okay, that's credit, we're managing the credit risk, but the market risk, I will emphasize, people don't have a clue what's going on. People don't have a clue what kind of leverage they run at the end. People don't have a clue what kind of tail risk they're accepting, because I can offer you extra 3%, that looks good, but once in a while you will lose everything you earn so far, and even more. So that's
certainly not worth the extra 3%.
Yeah, for sure. But people don't understand. They like to have extra 3% currently, and they don't question what kind of risk I'm onboarding. And more dangerous is this risk is correlated with my existing risks, because the risk, also outstanding risk can be reasonable, but if I have already lots of risk in my portfolio or my exposure, it doesn't make sense to add this risk, even if it's reasonable. I'm just running to the, and then 2007, 2008, going to happen again. So, and I think actually it's going to happen, but that's my point. So I think the market risk is very big, leverage is very big. Leverage killed a lot of companies, a lot of markets, and we don't have a regulation, which is pretty cool, because it's pretty cool when you don't have 200 different institutes who are trying to regulate you, but it's also not so cool to have zero regulation and no clarity at all kind of Ponzi scheme, pyramid games possible. So, and people don't understand it. So you need to really have a PhD to understand all these risks and correlations among them. So that's my answer. I would say that's the market risk.
Yeah. We had a comment in from a viewer, Mary Winfield, who says Singapore also is doing some work on port of entry, which are tough measures. So yeah, that makes sense. I like the way that you've classified it: operational credit and market risk. And certainly we've got a lot of different factions within those three categories that we'll need to tackle with. Personally, I've been a bit of a skeptic on DeFi. I think that it's extremely exciting, certainly the pace that it's growing. And I think that the reason that we're all here today, I mean, panelists and viewers alike, is that we get, it's quite fascinating. And we're excited about the fact that we can take back control from, you know, the traditional financial players, maybe decentralize it, make it a bit more fair. And I think that that's really the goal here. But of course, we need to tread lightly given the abundant amount of risk that's in there. So what I'd like to understand is maybe what are the next steps and milestones? Camilla, starting with you.
The next steps and milestones, you mean to like overcome these risks?
Yes, of course. Well, to make the banking dinosaurs extinct.
Let's see. I think part of it does come with time, as you know, was previously mentioned. Just have a more secure and tested ecosystem where people feel more comfortable transacting.
Is this right? Does this look like the right screen?
Higher regulatory certainty.
Yep. Okay.
How
does that look, April?
Because right now we are in this very kind of gray area.
Okay, you just leave this like this for a few minutes.
Okay.
For like our different jurisdictions stand
does my cursor come through on the share?
And that makes, you know, people of stay away and makes
There's a couple places where I plan to be pointing at things, so
harder to do. Yeah. And I think just like a deeper financial,
our operator just sizing everything up right now.
Just like more developed financial infrastructure, which lets you take market protection.
About 12 minutes from your session.
Andre was mentioning CDS. There are you know, different teams building derivatives like options that allow you to protect your exposure, and decentralized insurance will also help. So there are all these different pieces that are being built right now. And, you know, we're such in kind of the early days that everything is being tested and broken and rebuilt again. But, you know, we're seeing all these primitives kind of rising, right? Like derivatives, insurance, regulators starting to take a look and maybe get more clarity in the space. And just, you know, the code itself getting stronger with time, and as more value and users flow in. So yeah, I think we are kind of taking the very first steps now, but yeah, we're still a long ways away.
Right. So that brings us, I guess, full circle to the beginning. We're still early, right? So it's just a matter of time. And people like those of us in the room here continuing to build, continuing to bring smart contracts that talk to each other, and to continuing to bring services. that can withstand the test of time, because of course the test of time only happens not immediately. And Patrick, how about you? What do you feel are the next, I mean, let's say, well, so maybe let's switch the question then. How much time is it going to take? Let's quantify this.
Well, I want to first approach the original question because I have a pretty clear answer to it.
Great.
When we look at the blockchain stack as a whole, of which DeFi is a part, but DeFi is not the only part. What is the weakest part of this stack? And the answer is not the infrastructure. We know from Bitcoin and we know from Ethereum, we know from this global distributed network of nodes that it's very, very resilient. You know, China banned Bitcoin umpteen times and Bitcoin never went away, right? So, okay, so this is quite resilient. But what is not resilient right now? And the answer is the political layer. We have a very, very weak political architecture. We have a number of centralized teams globally that are very vulnerable to state actors coming in and, you know, interfering with their work in a very direct fashion. And if we want to approach, or if we want to de-risk, then we have to politically decentralize. And that means creating new institutions and approaching institutional design. Token engineering is trying to do this in sort of this way. Now, what does that look like in practice? It looks like institutions like the DXDAO that have 420 governors. And they're governing, you know, various DeFi protocols. They have their own interface. They control their own ENS domain. But try regulating 400 people across 6 continents, and it becomes very, very difficult. The system becomes more resilient. So we need to really look at the political layer here. And then what was the follow-up question? Oh, how soon? So how soon are we looking at? To be honest, I don't know. 5 to 10 years. We exist in a super scalable era. You know, the technologies of yesterday have grow to impossible ends. You know, look at something like VR. As a child, I dreamt about these types of machines. As an adult, you know, I'm less interested in them, but I still think about them. But we have this impressive sort of wave of transhumanism coming our way with Elon Musk, with these direct cybernetic input-output systems as we interact with our environments. And we just have this ecological revolution coming in a really serious way. And that is going to cause exponential growth in blockchain. It's going to cause exponential adoption. It is coming because we need this trustlessness for these transhumanist systems that are approaching us.
Interesting. Okay, and I think also the previous maybe 2 panels ago was Mr. Brian Brooks, the crypto comptroller, the acting comptroller of the United States, who was former exec at Coinbase, and he's now making waves along with the SEC and really paving the way for decentralized future. So especially in the United States, where there has been relatively uncertain regulatory environment until now, I think that they're bringing that clarity at lightning speed. So this could certainly hasten not only blockchain and DeFi, but you know, the entire fintech and innovation altogether. But of course, the United States is not the only place in the world. So you know, there's gonna be certainly many different layers of that. So I wanted to ask you, Anton, kind of the same question. What are the milestones, and how long before we're in a decentralized future?
About estimates, I agree with Patrick. It's 5 to 10 years, but I would also add about protection from the risks. I think we forgot one risk. We not named it exactly as a risk of having own keys of own wallets. It's dangerous because these keys could be stolen and you can lose all your wealth. And this risk could be mitigated by having multi-sig wallets and hardware wallets, because your computer will always have some viruses and they can steal your key, but they can't steal it from hardware wallet.
Right, but Patrick's grandma is not going to be able to figure those things out either, so.
Yeah. And I really believe in insurances. So simply from mathematical point of question, insurance is betting against your positions. It's like if you have your money in some protocol, you can bet against this protocol that it will be hacked. And in case of hack, you will lose your bet, and you will win your bet, but you will lose your money in this protocol. And I believe we will see a lot of new derivatives which will allow people to bet against protocols. Maybe Andrew will tell us about this because he's working.
I think we're getting already into different area that was not meant for our panel discussion today. What I'd like to ask you, Andre, and we've got about 3.5 minutes left on the timer here. Same question, my friend. What are the milestones? How long is it before I can stop using my bank for all of my quantum economics needs and go towards completely smart contract, decentral autonomous organization?
Yep. So I would extend what Anton said, because he said about insurance and some derivatives. You were trying to prevent me from this, but I will do it anyway. So because it's oh
no, it's a coup.
What is derivative? Derivative, if I explain to my mother, it is a way to trade a risk. So every derivative is a certain risk, isolated risk. And why hedge funds using derivatives? Because they trade, they want to take very specific isolated risks, and that's why they use a lot of derivatives. So derivatives, they do help to mitigate the risk if you get rid of the risk, but somebody accepting the risk. And for somebody who is accepting the risk, there is better capital efficiency. So derivatives solve two things: capital efficiency of a risk taker and the ensuring the somebody who getting rid of the risk. So, and that's why I think derivatives will be the big milestone as a first place, and a second place regulation.
The derivatives that were just outlawed by the FCA 10 minutes ago.
Yeah, but this is very specific type of derivative. So decentralized derivatives, it's pretty difficult to ban. You can also ban Bitcoin, but not or Ethereum, and nothing.
I get your point.
Yes, and that's the first one, and the second one is regulation. I'm coming back to this because I think it's very important. It should be some regulation. Maybe it's going to be self-regulation, that we all come to the same standards. Because if we don't come to the standards, it's going to be a mess. So, and we don't have a mess. We don't have to have like super large number of regulation. That's not good. That's what I was doing when I was a bond trader. But we don't want to have Wild West either. So that's right. The second thing. So, and on the question why and the timing, I think it depends a lot on the financial crisis. So the faster we have next financial crisis in DeFi, the faster the system going to be robust. It's basically anti-fragility. So you can read Nassim Taleb is writing about this. So the system should have this small micro crisis, a lot of big crises in order to be mature. And if it happens, then we speed up the time. And
so you're saying that the timing is going to depend on external factors. And Cami, we've got less than a minute left. And I want to just take this in a different direction all the way with the little time we have. How much regulation should we be completely distancing from regulation, or should we be integrating with it? In 30 seconds.
Oh, well, okay, I think there's an opportunity here to disrupt regulation. You know, like fintech has something like called RegTech. I think DeFi can also approach it through that way. Something like, for example, decentralized identity, decentralized credit scores. I think things like that can really help the ecosystem self-regulate. And that will work much better than external regulators coming in and telling us us how to do things.
Excellent. All right. Thank you very much, guys. It was a pleasure speaking with you. Wish we could go on forever, but this is the world. Thanks a lot for watching,
Thanks,
and
everyone.
have a great day.